What's going on, guys? So, Vinland Saga Season 2, Episode 19, Canute has finally arrived on the shores of Ketil's farm, and he has brought with him a terrifying force of warriors, including the Yoms Vikings, and Ketil has a bunch of farmhands, and some bodyguards, and some trained guys here or there. He has Torgil, who is, really, really strong. He's got Snake, who's a badass, but Canute has the Yoms Vikings, and it really is no comparison whatsoever between, I believe, the 100 men, I think it said Canute had, correct me if I'm wrong, I can't remember, compared to Ketil has 3 times as much, and he is thinking that the manpower of 3 times as many people that Canute brought with him means that they are surefire going to win. How dare Canute only show up on the dock with just that small amount of people? Who does he think he's dealing with? I am Iron Fist Ketil, which he's not at all. And Snake admits that to his men, one of my favorite parts of this episode and in the manga. So this episode actually covers 3 chapters of the manga. It covers 89, 90, and 91. Not quite all of 91. There's like a couple of pages that it doesn't get to, but pretty much all 3 chapters, which is actually really impressive when you consider the fact that most episodes have been covering 2 chapters at a time. This episode also incorporates a lot of anime-only stuff with Arnheid and still manages to adapt 3 chapters. But because we are kind of getting into more of the action elements, more of the fighting that's happening within this arc, it tends to flow a lot quicker when it's in animation than when every, panel of the choreography is drawn out in the manga. It takes a lot more manga pages to draw something that in an anime could be covered in a couple of seconds. So it makes sense that they're covering more chapters now per episode. I really like everything that's happening here, and I love the build of it, and I love how Vinland Saga Season 2 has not shied away from just the brutality of war. It might have been a while since we've seen it, since we've been on this farm. We've seen some battles happen. We saw Garda rip a man's throat out with his mouth. There's still been some intense, violent, gore-like elements, but when we have head splitting and arms getting ripped off and arrows pelting people, it really reminds you just what the themes of this anime is all about when it shows the horrors of war, and it doesn't shy away from it. And the thing about this particular battle is that we are seeing a bunch of characters die, a bunch of, characters that we don't know. We don't know their names, we don't know their backstories. They're characters that are here to die, but it's the situation that the characters are in that makes you kind of second guess it, because these guys don't really deserve what is happening to them. They are going into battle because of Ketil, and they're going into battle pretty much based on a lie. They're going into battle in one hand because that's what Ketil is telling them to do, and they respect Ketil as Iron Fist Ketil, the man that they know him as, which he is not. He has taken another man's name and used that to kind of fabricate his status on this farm, so that not only does he have wealth, but he has this reputation of being a warrior, of being somebody strong, somebody physically strong, mentally strong that you can look up to. When we saw in the last episode, previous episodes, and as I explained, that Ketil is ultimately a very weak man hiding behind this gaze. And when weak men are backed up into a corner, they tend to lash out very violently, very sadistically, a moment to have this sense of power. And I realize that everything is being ripped away from Ketil. I'm not denying the fact that he is going through some serious shit, but Canute is also giving him the option to flee. He is giving him the option to go to a different country to spare all of these men's lives, to spare his own life. Not forgetting the fact that the entire reason that he is here is also based on a fabrication. He set up the incident in which Olmar would attack, and then Torgil stepped in, killed some of his men, which gave him the justification to go and take over this farm. So really, both Canute and Ketil are basing this entire conflict, this entire battle, both based on a lie, and it's other people that are suffering the consequences because of that. They are leading men into battle. Now, of course, on Canute's side, his casualties are going to be, pretty much nothing. But on Ketil's side, it's going to be vast, and it's going to hurt a lot of people along the way. It's taken away all of the help on the farm. And also, these people had no idea that they were actually going to war with the king himself. So there's so much miscommunication going on during this entire segment. And the result of that is a bunch of deaths that didn't need to happen. Also, we have Torgil and Olmar, which I really want to talk about. I like the dynamic between these brothers a lot. I like that you have Torgil, who kind of went off, left the farm, joined this world of battle and combat, and really became this sadistic fuck. And then you have Olmar, who has this idealization of what that means and always wanted to be that and wants to showcase himself, but he can't go through with it. Every time he's within that moment, you know, whether it was the battle when they were visiting King Canute before, watching Torgil slay all those men before, or in this circumstance where once again all the farmhands are kind of being manipulated as a distraction so Torgil can swim all the way around the other side and attack Canute from behind, and he wants Olmar to come with him. Now, on one hand, you could say, what a great older brother, taking his younger brother away from the slaughter, making sure he's not going to get killed that way, and saying, hey, you might have a chance to take out the king. Really, it's Torgil that's going to do it, but like, hey, it's like, come with me, brother. What a great older brother, man. What a great guy that you have leading you. But Olmar can't do it. He can't bring himself to do it. He can't make the swim. He's not physically strong enough. He's not mentally strong enough. And, you know, like I said, it's all deception and manipulation, which is part of war, which is part of combat. You know, that you want to get into your enemy's head. You want to trick your enemy. All is fair in love and war, as they say. And so, you know, he brings Olmar to do this, but Olmar cannot bring himself to do it. And it's the tragedy of Olmar because, you know, he is a spoiled rich prick. But also, on the other hand, you know, he just doesn't really understand the kind of things that he's built up in his head. And the more and more that he experiences it, and the more and more he sees the realities or the results of what he built up in his head, he sees that this is not for him. This is not who he is as a person. You can't force yourself to be that way. And other people just bask in it, like Torgil. And there's just such a huge difference between the two. And between Ketil as well. Like, there's a big difference between Ketil and Torgil, and a big difference between Ketil and Olmar. Because I would say Olmar is also a weak man, but his weakness comes from naivety. He just doesn't understand. Whereas Ketil, I think it does come more from his sense of weakness, or his fear of being perceived as weak, or his fear of not being the leader that he's built himself up to be. So he has this reputation to maintain, but deep down, when push comes to shove, when shit hits the fan, he's unable to maintain it, and he breaks, you know, which he did. So here we are with the Ketil family, and it's all messed up. Now, on the other side of that, we have other things going on the farm. Right before the battle, Snake gears up for combat, and he admits to his entire crew the truth of what's going on. And the cool thing is that Snake actually knew the real Ketil. There is an Iron Fist Ketil, probably dead somewhere. But, like, an Iron Fist Ketil was out there, right? It's just this Ketil took on that identity, that persona, to make people believe that's who he was. But there really was a Ketil out there. And Snake actually knew him. And one of the unfortunate things is the animator, one of the head directors, Shuei Yabuta, I think his name is. He actually follows me on Twitter, which is weird. I wonder if he watches my reviews. I don't know. But he said that Makoto Yukimura, the creator of the manga, gave him all of Snake's background, all of his backstory, so he knows it. And Snake is supposed to be a mysterious character. We're not really supposed to know. It's not really explained in the manga, but Makoto Yukimura knows because it's his character, and he told the director too, and he gave the director the freedom to tell more of Snake's backstory in the anime if he wanted to. The unfortunate thing is that Yabuta said that he just didn't have enough time within the episodes, within the 24 episodes that we're getting, to tell the story of the slave arc and also incorporate more of Snake's backstory. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see it unless they do like a special one-off, or, you know, if they just include like little snippets in a flashback or something. But that's part of Snake's history. And so when he got in trouble, you know, he was searching for Iron Fist Ketil. He heard the rumors about him owning a farm, went here, showed up, and found this Ketil instead. But he was allowed to stay here. He had skills that were useful. He's a strong swordsman. He was able to lead the team of security that's there. He got to eat all this food for free. So even though this wasn't the Ketil that he wanted to find, he did manage living here, and he did, you know, he did find some safety and security. You know, Ketil did give him a place to live. He gave him a job. He had stuff to do. He didn't have to spend his life just as a wanderer, like evading the law or getting into trouble. Like, he actually had some kind of purpose here. So he feels indebted. He feels obligated to do the ultimate thing that Ketil said. But I like that Snake doesn't force his men to do it. Whereas Ketil just basically says, everybody that's working on the farm, we're going to go fight, we're going to do this. Snake tells his own personal team, look, I'm going to fight, I'm going to do this. Ketil's really just got to see how strong these people are. He'll probably give up at some point. But, obviously there's going to be casualties. So he's allowing his group the opportunity to leave. He's saying, you guys can go if you want to. Like, this is the truth. This is not Iron Fist Ketil. This is what happened. We're probably going to lose. So it's up to you. And I really respect that from Snake's character. I think that that's one of the coolest things that we've seen him do. I think that every decision he's made has made sense for who he is and what he's trying to do, even with the mystery that we don't know behind him. But this moment really sets up just a good sense of honor, of support, of gratitude for his team. And these are the strongest fighters on the farm, too. Like, the farm hands and all that's like, yeah, they wield axes all day long. They're strong, but they're not like skilled warriors, right? Snake's team is like, I would say, a little bit more elite, a little bit higher level. And so he's telling those guys they can go if they want to. So way different way of handling the situation, and I just really appreciate that about Snake's character. And finally, we've got to talk about the Thorfinn side of things. So Arnheid is still alive, but she's barely hanging in there. We didn't really get a great reunion between Thorfinn and Leif, but that's not skipping anything from the manga. It is written the same way in the manga, so that's just how it handled the situation. It's probably because Yukimura didn't want to break tension from the Arnheid situation that was going on, and have this like moment of Thorfinn and Leif kind of meeting and having a conversation while Arnheid is dying out. Like, he probably just didn't want to break the momentum of the story. And I can understand that, but I can also understand people being upset by not seeing that official reunion. But they're here, and they do have a moment. They do have a moment of saying, Leif saying, like, I barely recognized you, and everything. So they do have a little bit of a conversation, but definitely not as deep or as intricate as probably a lot of people wanted. But I get why they did it. So they start riding off. It is Leif, Thorfinn, Einar, the other Thorfinn, and Arnheid, who is barely hanging on. And the anime-only segment of this episode does the same thing that they did with Gardner and kind of show her in this dreamscape-like wagon ride where she's talking to Gardner. The difference between this one is that Gardner is driving and she is sitting in the back, and she has their original child on her lap, and she's also holding what would be her baby, which is her still unborn child. So that basically means they're all heading towards the same place. So they're heading there, and there's this kind of beautiful moment where she says, I'm so happy to kind of like get away from this pain and this turmoil, find peace, find rest. But there are still people trying to struggle within this world. And the great moment is Gardner saying, I'm going to be here for as long as you need. So, go say goodbye to your friends. And that's just like, you got to pull on the heartstrings, man. And that was the moment to do it. So she does manage to wake up. She regains consciousness and she speaks with Einar for a moment. We don't get a lot of it. The episode ends back with Torgil, who did manage to swim all the way around the freaking ocean. I don't even know where he started from, pretty far away. And he is right behind Knut, ready to kill him. And that's where the episode ends. Crazy good stuff, man. We only have 5 episodes left of Season 2. I'm sure it's going to get to the end of the slave arc, probably to the end of Book 7, if you're reading the manga. So when the season ends, if you're dying for more Vinland Saga before Season 3 gets announced, you're probably going to pick up with Book 8. But yeah, love the episode. I love the stuff we're getting. I like that it's not shying away from anything. I can pretty much guess where the next episode's going to end, and I think it's going to be great. So let me know what you guys think about this episode down below. If you're an anime only, leave your thoughts, theories, idea about what you think is going to happen next. We got 5 episodes left. Let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed this video, this review, please give it a thumbs up and a comment because it does really, really help out in the algorithm. I'd really appreciate it if you do. I also have channel memberships, a Patreon, and a merch store linked down below if you want to help support on a deeper level. And if you are a horror movie fan, I just released a 5.5-hour long epic retrospective deep dive into the entire Evil Dead franchise, the original trilogy, Ash vs. Evil Dead, the TV series, the newer movies, and a lot of the extended lore, comics, and stuff like that. It's a huge, long video. I don't expect you to watch it all in one sitting, but definitely give it a view. Check it out if you're a horror fan. I know that might not have much crossover with Vinland Saga, but hey, you never know. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you next time.